station for our viewers, for our listeners. So that's what I'm doing right now. So while this is not live, we're gonna have this and put this out there for all of y'all to enjoy after you've done spent time with your family, loved ones, if you so are fortunate enough to have any. If not, sucks to be you. Find you some family, friends, and loved ones. All right. But we're gonna go over a couple of different sports news updates that I found to be entertaining, interesting, and then I'm gonna get on up out of here. So if there's a like button on the platform that you're watching this on, make sure that you hit that like button. All right. Now, first thing that I want to play is I saw this boxing video and I said, look, if this is me and I'm stepping in the ring with somebody like this, and this is how this dude presents himself to me, and I'm giving everything that I have, and he's letting me do it, oh, it's time for me to quit. I might as well just, hey, coach, hand me the white towel and throw it myself. Take a look.
Oh, the fine taste of Marlboro.
Now, at what point do you just give up? You sit here, the dude he's put his hands down and he said, hey, I'm gonna let you hit me. You're not doing anything to me. It also looked like they were in different weight classes as well, which is why it is importante to have weight classes. Because if I'm sitting here hitting somebody and they're not phased by anything that I'm throwing at them, yo, I'm just gonna step out the ring myself and say, you got this, bruh. I give up. Not happening, not doing it. All right. Some people need to learn, and that guy learned the hard way. All right. Now, there was a profile piece that was done on Coach Mulkey, and it was done by the Washington Post, and it made her look like an absolutely insane, mad coach. There were a couple of pieces that were in this piece that came out, and I think that the timing of it too is interesting. Why release this piece in the middle of their team's NCAA championship run? Okay. I'm going to share on my screen here what the piece in the Washington Post had talked about and just kind of highlight a couple of different things. So it published this highly anticipated profile on Coach Mulkey, and it painted this complex woman with a singular drive and unrelenting loyalty that has alienated some of her family members and has impacted her coaching style. Now, you can take a look at the results. The results speak for themselves as far as what she's accomplished during her coaching career. I'm one that says sometimes greatness requires sacrifice. Okay. Like her team is in the middle of an NCAA championship run right now. They're probably, I don't know if they have a game because I didn't look that up prior to going on this recording here, but they're not out celebrating Easter or anything like that. If they don't have a game, they're probably practicing, right? It's kind of like when you're in the military and you're deployed and you have to miss certain events, or you're working. You don't even have to be deployed. You're just working because you have to miss certain events because of what you signed up for. Coach Mulkey has decided she wanted to be great. And being great requires sacrificing. I'm not going to always be the most present person if I'm one of the greatest coaches of all times, right? Look at Bill Belichick. I don't know what Bill Belichick is like in his personal life, but you don't hear too many people talking about Coach Belichick like he's this great overall guy. When people talk about Coach Belichick, they talk about his coaching ability and things like that. And obviously, the guy's produced several professional football championships. But where are you hearing people talking about him as like this great father, this great person? You don't hear that often. And that could be kind of sad. I think it depends on what level you're on too, right? There are certain high school coaches that get that reverence. And each ladder that you go up in professionalism, you're managing not just kids, but grown as people. So with what Coach Mulkey has going on, she's demanding certain things like Coach Saban would. Everybody said Coach Saban had a certain way that was like, if you wanted to be a champion, this is what you had to do. And if you weren't on board with that, you could go someplace else. But here in Tuscaloosa, we require this level of effort, this level of commitment for you to be great. There's no doubting with what Coach Mulkey has done in her way that it produces results. I think that this piece that was on her was biased a little bit, and I'd like to figure out why. I didn't read the original Washington Post piece. I caught excerpts from different websites, and what I'm showing now is what was written on ESPN. One of the most famous things here that I have highlighted was she was known to apparently hold grudges and clashes with players, especially regarding their appearances and displays of their sexuality, right? Now, in certain circles, when you're talking about women's basketball players, you're looking at a lot of women that don't get counseled for saying this, King. They don't appear to be feminine. I heard Brittany Griner speak one time, and I'm like, her voice might be deeper than mine. All right. And apparently, Coach Mulkey, who, if you look at her, she's a more feminine dressed coach, right? Apparently, she had issues with players that weren't heterosexual. Okay. And several people spoke out about that. All right. Now, Brittany Griner is one of the players that she had a very public falling out against. And when Brittany got detained in Russia, the coach didn't say anything about the situation except with one instance at a local radio station. All right. And former LSU players had told the Washington Post that those within the program avoided mentioning Brittany or commenting on social media posts supporting Brittany Griner. Why is that? Do you think that the coach had some influence into that? Especially on something like an international incident, what tends to happen is that people come out and the coaches want to get ahead of what's going on. So they bring their people in and they say, what you're not going to do is this, which is a smart move. It's a smart move. But the fact that Coach Mulkey had nothing to say speaks volumes. All right. There was also a piece that talked about where a former player by the name of Kelly Griffin, who played for the coach from 2007 to 2010. This person is quoted as saying, Coach Mulkey is an amazing coach. The reason why I went to Baylor is because of her. But she also made my life hell by drawing attention to my clothes and issuing a suspension to me because of finding out when she did that I was gay. And that suspension pretty much ended my career. All right. So, great coach, mad coach. I'll let y'all decide. I'll let y'all decide. Would you, if you knew that this coach would push your kid, but get them championships and potentially to the next level and improve their game, would you allow your child to go under the tutelage of Coach Mulkey? Y'all let me know. I'm going to keep it on the subject of NCAA women because I found this one interesting as well. So there was an Oregon State player who had been playing with a nose ring almost her entire NCAA career, yet one ref decided to enforce the no jewelry and have her sit down and not be allowed to come back in until the nose ring was removed. And I did some digging, okay? And I want y'all to let me know if I'm tripping. Okay, so Hannah Hidalgo is the player that I'm talking about here. This player was told by a referee during the NCAA women's tournament to remove her nose ring. She plays for Notre Dame. This was the game between them and Oregon State. All right. And if you take a look at this photo right here, this is her being on the sideline and the staff or the athletic trainers helping her take out that ring. And it was a tight game at this point, 15-17. I like to go back and take a look at the results and see who won that game. All right. But it says right here, and this is what I wanted to highlight. I'm going to make this bigger. That's what she said. Under Rule 2-5.1, head decorations, headwear, helmets, and jewelry are illegal. Religious headwear is permitted, provided it is securely fashioned to the head and subject to the approval of the referee. And this is Rule 1, Section 25, Article 7. So on nose rings, that's pretty clear. But headwear, that's what I also want to highlight right here too. There was a video that was going around from last year's tournament, or it could have been earlier this season, in which a college women's team was playing and a lady got fouled and her wig came off. All right. And then you saw both teams rally around her while she got her wig straight, right? They stopped the game for this. Rallied around her while she got her wig straight. And then, when she stood up, everybody was clapping. I'm like, what y'all clapping for? According to the rules, she shouldn't be wearing it. That, to me, is considered headwear. You might even call it head decorations. Right here, Rule 1, Section 25, Article 7. Head decorations, headwear. Y'all tell me. Am I tripping? Should that be enforced? If you are on the floor wearing a wig and the ref sees it, should you be get out, take that wig off, then you can come back in? Y'all let me know. Am I tripping? Put it down in the comment section. Now, I'm going to skip an article that I had presented and just tell y'all what went down. There was a former student athlete that went on a fishing trip in a kayak, something that you will never find King Smith doing. Okay. And this former NCAA student went missing for like 11 hours. Coast Guard got sent out. he eventually got found safe, was not in distress or anything like that. And it got me wondering, why were you out away from civilization without any kind of radio or anything to let people know like what was going on? Actually, you know what? Here, I am going to display it. So this is Chris Smelly, current Sylacauga high school football coach and former South Carolina quarterback. All right. So this is him smiling, safe and sound on his kayak fishing. How many of y'all gone fishing on a kayak too? Like I've done fishing on a big boat, I've done fishing on a small boat, but a kayak? A kayak? Where do you put the fish that you catch in the kayak? I don't know. I don't get it. It's one of those things that a certain group of people do that Keith Smith just, you won't find me doing that. All right. But Chris Smelly, look, I'm glad you're safe, man. But oh man, let me try not to get canceled for a second time. The resources that gets wasted because of people's stupidity baffles me. I will never understand it. Let me go climbing on the peaks of Kilimanjaro with just a backpack and my wit. Why? And then your loved ones say, oh, so-and-so was supposed to check in. I ain't heard from them. Now we got to expend human resources to go find your dumb ass. I don't get it. I don't get it. Side note, when I was in high school, we played against Sylacauga High School. And I got to see if I could download that newspaper clipping so I can blow it up and post it on the Sports Bar's Facebook page because we dominated them way back in the early 2000s. Sylacauga might be a powerhouse now, but not when I was playing. Look, I'm glad that this was a fishing trip gone wrong that ended up being right. So, Chris Melly, hey man, I'm glad that you're found safe and don't do that ish again. Okay. Now, the last thing that I want to highlight here before I go to our final subject for this show, MLB has kicked off. All right. While me and my lady were out at this place called The Yard House. I was looking over because she's right here next to me. Shout out to my co-producer. While we were at the Yard House, they had all kinds of sports games and things on. The March Madness games, MLB, hockey going on. Great place, fantastic place, good vibe. All right. And the Baltimore Orioles were playing yesterday. And at the top of the ninth, the score was like 13-1. And I said, yo, Baltimore's out here making a statement. And for the uninitiated, right? When you say Baltimore, it's not Baltimore. If you listen to ESPN, they're going to say the Baltimore Orioles, the Baltimore Ravens. No, I'm not from there. But I guess since I'm dating somebody that's from Baltimore, I'm adopted. So I have earned the right to say Baltimore. But they were blowing out the Los Angeles Angels yesterday. The Angels ended up catching an extra couple of runs at the top of the ninth, but the Orioles closed it out. There were several close games yesterday as well. The Detroit, they ended up beating the Chicago White Sox by 1 point. Milwaukee won over the Mets by 1. But there were also several blowouts, at least according to baseball's metrics. You got the Baltimore game that was a large spread. Atlanta was having hit practice against Philly. They won 12-4 at Philadelphia. All right. And these were all of yesterday's games. And Chicago, 11-2 against Texas. Yikes. There's a couple of games that are going on today. Again, while Baltimore blew out the Angels yesterday, currently, as of me recording this, they're playing again today. And at the bottom of the fourth, or the end of the fourth, actually, the Orioles are down 4-1. All right. And looking at scores across the league here, hey, each day is a different day. Atlanta's beating Philly right now 3-1 at the top of the fifth. But the other scores from teams that won yesterday are winning today as well. Okay. Now, the final article that I have here for today's live stream is there were several rule changes that occurred in the NFL for the upcoming NFL season. Now, the NFL has a competition committee. Each team representative will suggest a new rule change or whatnot, and the league will vote on those rule changes. There were 12 new rules for the upcoming 24 season, but there were two that stood out and had people really talking about it. One of those rule changes are the new kickoff. Okay. So as you're reading it, I'm going to see if I can display here on the screen what it looks like. And then I'm going to show a video of what the new rule changes look like as well. All right. Give me a second. Here we go. I'm going to need for my producer to be faster. So here's a picture on the screen of how they're calling it a hybrid kickoff is going to be. So if you look in the middle right here, the kicker is going to be with the ball right here. And they're still going to kick off from the 35-yard line. The kickoff team is going to have the remaining players in what's called the kickoff start zone right here lined up at the 40. All right. The kick return team has to have they can have all but two up here at what's called the setup zone, and the ball has to land anywhere in what's called the landing zone. If not, it's a penalty. Like, it can't land right here. It has to land anywhere here or pass. All right. So there's still touchbacks. But what they're saying is that changing it to this new kickoff method is going to result in a safer way of having kickoffs for football, as well as more kickoff returns, because the percentages have dropped significantly. Okay, back in 2010, you had a 93% rate of kickoff returns happening, which you could say was one of the more exciting parts of the game, right? Devin Hester made his way to the Hall of Fame, not as a receiver, okay? You don't think of Devin Hester and you think of an all-time great receiver, but you hear Devin Hester and you think an all-time returner, okay? And the NFL had made some changes over time for player safety, but it was taking away the excitement of the return game because of how often players were either fair catching it or kickers were kicking it out and ruling it a touchback. So I'm a fan of these new changes, and I have a video here that I'm going to show that is going to showcase what the new kick return looks like. And it's basically the same. It's the NFL pulled this from the XFL. All right. So take a look at what the new kickoff is going to look like. And y'all let me know if y'all agree with it or disagree with it. Take a look.
Hunter Nicewander is back to kick it away. Keenan Reynolds for Seattle. That kick better go beyond the 20, and it does. To the 15, here's Reynolds. Up the middle of the field, out to the 31-yard line. Antoine Williams makes.
So, just like the picture that I had, nothing too crazy. I think it'll work. All right, I think it'll work. The other rule change out of the 12 that had people talking is the penalty for what's called a hip drop tackle. All right, and the hip drop tackle, think of how you're running to go make a tackle and you grab with two hands around the waist and then you dead your body, right? Like you just dead your body. That's a hip drop tackle that was causing a lot of lower body injuries. And the NFL was trying to find a way to remove that style of tackle again for player safety. As the competition committee are thinking about these rules, it's a little bit of how to make sure that the game's exciting, but also how to keep players from getting their ankles rolled under, having their knees getting rolled under, and things like that. So for the enforcement of that as a penalty, I'm for it. You can also think there were two instances that people are saying, man, if you make that a penalty, there were some instances of hip drop tackles that occurred that could have changed the outcome of some really high profile situations. One not so high profile situation is the one where DK Metcalf chased down the Cardinals guy who had got that pick. The way that Metcalf tackled that person was a hip drop tackle. The other more famous one is the Rams tackle at the 1 yard line that stopped the team from winning the championship. That right there ended the game with no time. But if that was called a penalty because it was deemed a hip drop tackle, now the offense has an extra chance at the half-yard line to not Seattle Seahawks Marshawn Lynch that up and possibly score to win the game. Okay? So with the way that players had been taught to tackle before this new change, we'll see how many penalties come from this change of the new hip drop tackle. All right. So look, y'all, that's been my video for today. Thanks for tuning in at the Sports Bar here at WTF Nation Radio. I'm about to go and enjoy some time and some good food with some good people. I hope you had the opportunity to do the same.